Hello, I'm David McNally. I've just had an amazing interview with Kim Sorrelle, where we have just gone across the board talking about what inspires people, what gives them purpose and meaning in their lives. It's just been an extraordinary conversation, and I certainly hope that you can take the time to listen and learn and benefit from it.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I write, I speak, I get to do so many fun things in life. But my favorite thing to do by far is to meet people. And I get to meet some really, really cool people. And today is David, who I was excited to meet before. I've been excited for this show. You're going to love him. He's got a great sense of humor, for one thing. From Australia, lives in Minnesota. I don't know why he's doing that because I live in Michigan and it's crazy weather. I love warm weather. But anyway, I'm excited for you to meet him. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Imagination is one of them, and the value of that, and aging, and just some different things. And so, welcome to the show. And David, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Kim. This is wonderful to be on the show and talking to you, and of course to everyone that's listening and watching. This is great. Yes.
Yeah, well, awesome. So, yeah, I'm so grateful that you're here. So, David, before we dive into a lot of the stuff, I really want people to get to know you. So, I would love to hear about 8-year-old David.
Yes. So I think although you mentioned that I'm from Australia, I did grow up in Australia, but I was actually born in London, England. And my parents emigrated to Australia when I was about 9 years of age. I had a younger brother, and so the family went. Classic immigrant story. They were blue collar, working class people who wanted a better life, and they created that in Australia. So I grew up there, married my first wife in Australia in my 20s. But at the age of 30, I had a normal type of business career working in corporations, but I fell in love with the whole field of human potential, the possibilities that exist for all of us if we can just open up to them and believe in ourselves. And that became my career. And so I've actually been in that field now for nearly 50 years. It brought me from Australia in my mid 30s to Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I was working with a consulting company. It was shortly after that I left. But I then started my own business, and it has evolved into what I'm doing today. So I have five children, five grandchildren. So that's a good start, Kim, I think, letting people know who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love it. So human potential, that's an exciting field. I mean, it's so multifaceted. So when you were a kid, like growing up, did that have any influence on what you do today?
Well, yes, I think being the child of immigrants, I was able to witness the drive, if you like, and the ambition of my parents, which I inherited that. So I became very much committed that I too would create a better life for myself. I did that by becoming an entrepreneur very early in my life and started to achieve quite a bit of success very, very early. I also experienced a big failure very, very early as well. But what I was able to do, Kim, was after a period of time of how could I put it, being a victim, I realized that, yes, I had failed, but I had failed at something. That didn't mean that I was a failure.
Mm.
That's too big. So anyway, I've been knocked down, but I had the ability to get up, and so in doing that, I was able to then recreate my life, and then of course I was able to benefit from the stories of so many people who had transcended enormous difficulties, and I became so inspired and empowered by that became a kind of a theme of the work that I've done ever since.
Wow, wow. It's so interesting. Yeah, you hear so many stories about highly successful people that have had huge failures, have had bankruptcies or most of the time I think bankruptcies, companies that have failed, things that have failed in their life, and just give back up after probably wallowing in it for a minute and being upset
Yes.
about it for a minute, right? But then get back up and then achieve even greater things. Or like Abraham Lincoln that lost election after election after election. I'm not even sure how many he lost before he finally won one. And so uh resilience and that ability to get back up, I think is just such a strong character trait because it can be really difficult to get back up after you've been knocked down.
Yes, and I think that's where it becomes very important to understand that each of us has a spirit within us, whatever way we believe that comes from. I like to say, especially as we get older, that the creative spirit expires only when we expire. So that spirit exists within all of us, and so what we need to do is access that spirit. But it's a very transcendent spirit. It helps you overcome some enormous things. My first big project that I was involved with after I started my new business in Minneapolis, I produced a documentary film. And it was a film about an extraordinary young Canadian boy. And this is way back in 1980, who had run the greatest marathon in history. And the power of his story was that he had lost a leg to cancer and was running on one good leg and a prosthetic. But his name was Terry Fox. He became internationally known because he ran over 3,000 miles raising money for cancer research. What that made me realize, and my big aha that came out of that, was what really allowed him to do that because he was quite average in many ways. He wasn't a great athlete, he wasn't academically great, was his purpose. And it's when we access that purpose, it's amazing the power that it gives us. So, connected to the spirit is the purpose. If we find the purpose, then we access the spirit.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting that you say that because I've known people in my lifetime that are still looking for their purpose at my age, or older even, and younger. That is like, well, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Where is it? Why isn't it clear to me? And so, what do you say to people? Like, how do people figure out what their purpose is?
Well, I'll give it to you in two ways. One, and again, we have to be very clear here. This is the way David McNally looks at it, right? This is not the supreme answer. But I've spent a lot of time in this whole area, so working with corporations all over the world. So I do have some knowledge about it. I think we have to take a big picture look first. And that big picture is this, that as human beings, we are all a part of the great march of humanity. So as if you look at humanity and how it has progressed and grown, you look at all of the creative pursuits, you look at the standard of living that we have today that 100 years ago would have only been dreamed of, then we realize that was because of people's uh, creating better lives for the rest of us, right? So we all were beneficiaries of that. So if you look at it and you say, okay, I am a part of that, what does that mean for me? Then we find our purpose in how we contribute. So if we shift the question from what is my purpose to how can I contribute, now we get more tangible in terms of discovering what brings meaning to our lives. And that involves a process, Kim, of saying, okay, what are my gifts and talents? What am I skilled at? What do I love to do? And if I had that, my brothers, to contribute whatever I wanted to contribute, what would that be? So if we look at our purpose from the point of view of contribution, now we get a lot closer to discovering what it might be. And the beauty of it is that we don't have to look at big things like Terry Fox. I mean, that was an amazing story, and the contribution he made was phenomenal. But every day surrounding us in every manner are opportunities to contribute, to help make the world better than it was yesterday. That they're just endless. And as Mother Teresa said, yes, what you think what you're doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be much less with that drop.
Mm.
So if we look at that, that's a way to find out what our purpose might be.
I love that. I have never heard that before you, David. And I think that just makes so much sense. It just brings so much clarity. And really, we should kind of be living to contribute, right? Like no man is an island. Like we're all in this together. So giving, contributing, using our gifts to make the world a better place, to be that drop in the ocean is what we should all be striving to do, I believe. So to look at it through that lens is makes it so much clearer. I love that.
Well, and the great irony of it, Kim, which is something that we need to really understand, is that we live life on a feeling level. We want to feel good, right? Obviously we know if we're not feeling healthy one day that that's very unpleasant. But if we're in overall good shape health wise, what are other feelings? We want to feel fulfilled. We want to feel that our lives have meaning. We want to feel like we're moving forward, that we're not going backwards, that we're progressing, not regressing. They produce good feelings. And the great irony is when we are contributing, it produces the very best of feelings. And so we get to the end of the day, and whilst the day may in some ways have been challenging, we get to say, yes, but I did my best today, and I provided value to people because of what I did today.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And I love it too that you said, so, look at it through this lens of what do you want to contribute and what is it that you love to do and what is it that that you're good at and to kind of look at the whole picture, the big picture and figure it out because man, what is the saying? If you love doing what you're doing, you never work a day in your life.
Well, exactly, and of course we have to realize that sometimes from a job or a work perspective, we may not be in the ideal job because it may be a transitional period in our lives. So we've got to pay our bills. We have to be practical about that. We've got to pay the mortgage, the rent, or whatever it might be, buy food. So we may not actually be in the ideal job, but even so, we can still contribute in that job and that contribution within that framework can lift what we're doing or lift the job up to be much more enjoyable and satisfying than we had given it thought to, right? So instead of going, oh my gosh, I got to go to work, I got to do this, if we shift and look through a different lens and say, today I'm going to be given opportunities to connect with people. I'm going to get an opportunity to smile at people. I'm going to be able to be of service to people. It absolutely changes the way we experience our day.
Yeah, yeah, it totally turns it around. Yeah, I love that because I think it can be easy sometimes to get in a rut, so to speak, right? Where you're like, oh, the grind, going to work, I got to get up again. It's another Monday, whatever. But that's an attitude we choose. And if we do what you're saying and turn that around and say, not I have to, but I get to go do this today, and I get to go smile at people. I get to go contribute. I get to go help somebody. I get to go serve somebody. It's a whole different way of looking at life. I love that, David. So good.
Yeah, well, it's very much a matter of saying we're focusing on what we have rather than what we don't have. it's so easy to focus on the things that we feel are missing in our lives rather than what is present in our lives. And I'm sure you've had many guests, Kim, who have talked about obviously the concept of gratitude, just having gratitude for what we have. Again, that's a part of shifting our perception of how we experience our lives.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So interesting. Yes, and what a shift. And it doesn't sound like a difficult shift. It just sounds like something you have to be determined to do. So for people who this is kind of new to them, to sort of be reframing the way they see their job or what they're doing in their day, what are some good ways to remind yourself or to get into that different mindset?
Well, there's no question if we just hook onto the concept that we just talked about, and that is if we live in a world, I like to call it the world of ain't it awful, right? So we go about and everything. Oh, ain't it awful? This is awful. This is yeah. And we live in that world. It's a world of spiraling downwards, and it means I like to give the a metaphor of the fact that there's this huge window, and this window is looks over this magnificent scenery out there, mountains and snow and gorgeous pines. But what we do is that the window is broken up into smaller panes, and we just happen to be looking at one through one small pane, but that pane is focused on the car parking lot. So all we're seeing is concrete. But if we step back, we all of a sudden start to see the great vista of the mountains and all the beauty of it. So the ain't it awful conversation is very much self-focused and in a very small world. So what we need to do is shift from saying to ourselves, ain't it awful, to really saying, isn't that amazing? And start to realize what is so amazing in life itself. And it does take work and it does take energy because there's a great deal of comfort because there's a lot of people want to be in the world of ain't it awful with you. Right? They want to be in that world of being a victim and I don't have control of my life. And these things are being done to me every day. You get into the world of isn't that amazing? And then you start to see all sorts of things that you never saw before. For example, let's keep it really straightforward and simple. The fact that in the Northern Hemisphere now, we're moving into spring. Well, when I looked at on my deck, I happen to have the good fortune to live on a lovely lake, small lake, but it's a beautiful lake. And I sit on the deck when the sun comes out, and all of a sudden I start to see the buds forming. And now all of a sudden the leaves are going to come in, and then all the flowers are going to look at that and step back and say, "My God, that is amazing!" How that happens. And then I can go into all sorts of different examples. A fun one that I like to use is in a different way is that coming from Australia, people say to me, I've always wanted to go to Australia. And I say, well, why don't you? And they said, whoa, how long is that flight to Australia? And I say, well, you've got to get to Los Angeles first, and then it's about 15 hours. I could never be on a plane for 15 hours. And then I remind themselves that if you 150 years ago, it would have taken you 3 months to get to Australia, and you would have a 50-50 chance of dying on the way.
Right, right.
Right? And now you sit in this tube and you can watch as many movies as you want. And 15 hours later, you may have gone through some discomfort in the seat and all that, but you're in this world of kangaroos and koala bears and a whole different thing. So it's really getting perspective. Another lovely story that I like to tell is about my grandson. when he and I are very, very close, and I kind of have been a mentor to him as well. I have three grandsons, but this is my oldest one. And when he was 13 years of age, he came to me and he said, "Granddad, I need to talk to you." I thought, "Oh, this sounds serious." So he comes in and I said, "What's going on?" His name is Evan. He said, "It's my mom." Well, his mum is my daughter. And I thought, okay, what's going to go on now, right? And he said, "Well, what's wrong with mom? She won't let me have a cell phone." At that time, he's 13. He said, "What do you think, Granddad?" Well, I'm not going to get in the middle of my daughter and my grandson. I'm going for my daughter. I'm going to maintain my relationship. So I said to him, "Evan, I think you are a little young to have a cell phone." And he looked straight in my eye, Kim, and he said, "Well, how old were you when you had your first cell phone?" And I said, 50. So why I give that story is that he had no idea that cell phones did not exist before, right? So when I'm speaking to a group of seniors or elders or an audience, I ask them, and these are people 60s, 70s, even in their 80s, I might say to them, "Put your hand up if you don't have a cell phone." Now, there could be 100 people in the audience. No one puts their hands up. Everyone has a cell phone. Well, that's amazing, Kim. That's
Mhm.
another thing that's amazing today. But now we take it for granted. So what we're talking about is how do we move from "ain't it awful" to "isn't that amazing"? Just take a look at everything around us that we take for granted that truly is amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. That's so good. Yeah. Holy cow. What a conversation with your grandson. I love that. It's so interesting. To me, it's always interesting to see a kid and the way that they think and the way they use their imagination and the way they see the world. We can learn so much. I always feel like I can learn so much looking through the eyes of somebody younger because you get so that you see the world a certain way and then to get this refreshing sort of different view of it can be so interesting. And so like I feel like too when we're young our imaginations are huge, right? Like we're building stuff in our heads and we're building forts out of blankets and we're having fun outside with sticks and pretending that there's something else and doing all these things and just using our imagination. And sometimes it kind of gets beat out of us in a way. Like you're in a job, well, don't be thinking outside the box. This is your job. This is what you got to do, or this is your life, or that picture you drew in eighth grade, it was not any good. You are not an artist. Don't go down that route. Stop, whatever. We kind of get beat down in some ways. And our imagination kind of gets shoved back in some area of our mind that we don't return to sometimes. But I think it's such an important part of existing is using your imagination. And so I'd love for you to talk about that and how you feel about that and how to return to it.
Well, the wonder of the imagination is that it never grows old. So no matter how old we are, we have the capability of imagining. And what you said though is very, very true. Over the years, we can get shut down, and that can come from a lot of different people who shut us down because they are negative towards the possibilities and for our lives. And that can be our own parents who are trying to channel us in a certain direction because they believe that that's what's best for them. And then it can come from all other influences. But that doesn't mean that the imagination doesn't exist. And I think that one of the great joys of getting older is to start opening up your imagination once again and realizing that there's still much more living to be done, but it starts with the imagination. And let me tie in a couple of things that you've said there because I want to tie in young people and the imagination. So I turned 80 this year, Kim, but just before my 72nd birthday, I was doing an exercise that I have others do, especially in when we were dealing with corporations in terms of visioning and people visioning what they wanted for their lives. And the exercise is around the concept of one day I'm gonna. One day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to do that. And people have these lists, right? But they haven't done anything to move forward on bringing that into fruition. So it remains nebulous. It's out there. It's just a statement they make. So I was doing that for myself in just before, as I said, my 72nd. And I said, well, what's on the top of your one day I'm going to list? And it was go to college. I'd never been to college in my life. I paid for college with my five children, right? But I never been myself. And I said, well, you're getting to the point where you better do something about it. So at the University of Minnesota, I discovered they had a fantastic program for seniors. Where you could go to college, you could actually audit courses, and these are all over. I'm sure they're all over Michigan, all over the rest of the country, where you could audit a course, and it didn't cost you anything, providing you had the professor's permission, or you could take credits at a very, very nominal amount of money. And if you didn't have a degree or wanted to build on a degree, you could get a degree. So I went to a counselor and spoke to this counselor, and I said, "Sure, you can enroll. What do you want your major to be?" Well, I'm nearly 72. I had to tell the counselor, "This is not a career move. This is for fulfillment and joy, right?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, what direction? He said, well, look, if you don't know, you've got in front of you at the university a smorgasbord of learning. You can take a look at this smorgasbord, you can put your eyes all over it, and then what's the delicious thing that you would love to pick out first and try? And so I enrolled Kim at the University of Minnesota, and I began classes. And as a 72-year-old, I became a freshman. And so the beauty of that was going back to the young people was that I was able to be in class with a bunch of 18 to 20-year-olds, right? Often only the person of my age in the class. Sometimes there'd be another person of my age or similar. And I would interact with these young people. And what came out of it for me, Kim, was how smart they are, how engaged they are, and how they're seeing such, as you mentioned earlier, possibilities for their lives. And what was gorgeous about it for me too is how much they wanted to interact with me. Because, why are you in class? Why are you doing this? Right. And then to hear that it was my thirst for learning, it was really insightful for them because they were obviously in class to build and start their career and get their degree. So it was, and it has been the most amazing experience for me to be going to classes. I'll graduate when I'm 94, but I'm willing to keep going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And I didn't know that there were programs out there, but it's great that there are programs out there that you can go.
Oh, fabulous programs. Virtually, I think every more progressive university, I say progressive, people who are realizing how many seniors are out there that really want to keep learning. And that's another connection back to the imagination. That you go back and even when you're older, you say, oh my gosh, maybe I can finish my degree, or maybe I could get a master's, or I might get a PhD. And then the age doesn't make any difference. And you show up, and it's such a joyful experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so I'm working on this project
Yeah.
that I'd love your input on. So this friend of mine has had this dream and he's been working with these four other guys. So there's these five guys and me now that we're saying this is it. The dream time is over. Let's make this thing happen. And the whole idea is that the smartest people in our country, in the world, are the oldest people in our country, in our world. They have the most lived experience. They've got the most gained wisdom. And yet we kind of put people out to pasture. Like people retire and then what? They look at retirement, oh gosh, that's the goal, retire, retire, retire. But I know so many people who have retired and traveled for a couple months and then are like, now what do I do? And they've lost their purpose, they've lost their title, they've lost their sense of worthiness, because now you go to a party and people say, well, what do you do? And you say, I'm retired. They go, oh, nice to meet you, and walk away. Whereas, before, well, I'm CEO of Microsoft. Well, let me talk to
Yeah.
you, right? And so to do two things. One is to connect people with all this wisdom with younger people that could use all this wisdom. And so it creates a sense of purpose then too, for older people to say, I still can contribute, I can help younger people with issues, with whatever it happens to be that they're working on, that's my area of expertise, right? And also at the same time create community within the older people, because that's another thing that gets lost, is a lot of times your friends are your work friends, and you leave work and then who do you know? It's you and your wife and you're just out there golfing once in a while or whatever it is. But that how important community is and how important it is to be in community. But there's in our world that we live in today, it can be very difficult to find community to be a part of. And so our organization that we're beginning is kind of twofold: create community for people, and then pair people up with younger people to share all that wisdom and the stuff that they know. So I'm curious what you think of that, and how you see something like that. Of, is it a value? Is it um, what am I not thinking about with it? Because you're the genius in this whole area, and you're going to college. You're a college student, and you've got all this gained wisdom and all this, whatever gained experience. So anyway, I just love your intake on that.
Well, first of all, I think it's a very powerful, very wonderful, very needed idea that you're entering into. I feel that there is what is very important is that you establish your uniqueness around the offer and what you're endeavoring to do. So, if I may, I want to respect my boundary here, but my latest book, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished, addresses what you're talking about, right? And then I have a new course that we've just developed, which is on test drive at the moment, called Alive and Wise, The Joy of Being an Elder. But it's all addressing the needs that you mentioned. So let me go back to some of those needs. The beauty of it is this, is that what we can say is that older people are not necessarily the smartest. They are smart, there's no doubt about that. But young people are smart, but older people are wise. Now, some people unfortunately aren't wise, but that's another interview. but yes, but older people, we do have a lot of wisdom because we've made a lot of mistakes, and we can bring to young people the benefit of those mistakes. So I think that's very, very powerful what you're doing. What is the wisdom? What is the sage, I like to say, within each of us as an older person, that we can provide that wisdom to others. So you're on target there. You and your colleagues are very much on target. The other thing that is really great that you're talking about is the whole concept of community, because that is a real big need, as you've addressed out there. And what that ties into, Kim, is the fact that every study on longevity and people who live purposefully and in a fulfilling way and live longer, that one of the key factors is strong social connections. that when we are socially connected, we have friendships, we have interactions with others, and especially, as you said, with younger people, and that have that vibrant conversation that keeps us alive and keeps us engaged. So I think you're going in a very, very powerful direction, and I encourage it. And whatever I can do to help, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I mentioned it to you because you are the expert on it. You have written the book and you do have this program. And I've been looking into that going, man, you are the guy who has I feel like you're 10 steps ahead of us as far as thinking things like this out and the importance of it. And so I appreciate that very much. And believe me, I will be calling on you to help out with this because you are the guy to do it for sure. And it's interesting to me too how people feel like they no longer have value. Like I've known people who like my grandpa, for instance, he graduated, he worked for the state of Michigan. He was a bridge builder, so engineer for the state of Michigan before he never went to school. So he self-taught engineer. And so brilliant guy, really smart guy. And then he took early retirement because sometimes states offer that or people offer that. So 55 years old, he planted himself in this orange chair. And then that was like it for his life. Like he did a little bit after that, but very little. And he lost his sense of value, even not even just his sense of purpose, but his sense of value, like just kind of living to die, just kind of like, well, when I die, whatever. And how do you combat that? Or what do you say to somebody who is in that place where they're like, well, I was useful then, but I'm no longer useful?
Yeah, it's a very powerful one, and it's very unfortunately prevalent out there because, and again, I address this in the very first paragraph of the first chapter of the book, where I talk about having lunch with the CEO or retired CEO of one of an international public company that I knew well, and a man who was enormously wealthy, and we were at his country club and we're having lunch and we were friends, and I asked him, I said, how's retirement going? And I was expecting him to say wonderful, and he said it's difficult. And I said, it's difficult. What's going on? He said, well, he said, 12 months ago, he said, I couldn't get to my emails. I couldn't respond to texters. I was so busy. I was invited to all the social events that were going on in the area. And now I have to call people to have lunch. I said, can you summarize it for me? He said, yeah. He said, it's relevance. I don't feel relevant anymore. And yet he was an incredibly generous, philanthropic man whose family and friends loved him. But inside of him, he was dealing with the relevance factor. So what you're talking about, Kim, is that for so many years our identity has been tied up with what we've done, right? What we've been doing. And now that identity is no longer there. We are the ex-engineer, the ex-CEO, the ex-doctor, or whatever it may be. So the journey of getting older is one that we really have to work on and reframe, because no one else is going to give us the relevance. We have to find the relevance ourselves. And we have to study that. We have to reflect on it. We have to take the time out to say, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? And whilst I may not know it, it's like going on a retreat, and to be able to look back at what you've accomplished, but then what would you like to accomplish in the future? So the journey is very much, I believe, I like to use the word elder. The journey of an elder is an internal journey. It's a journey of spiritual renewal, of emotional renewal, of growing within us and expanding ourselves. Even I like to say, even look at our beliefs, look at our opinions. What do we feel is in concrete that needs to be examined? Is that true? That's the journey that we're on. And of course, that is a journey where some people get fearful about it, about looking inside of themselves, because their identity has been so tied up. But no, we go back then, Kim, to what we talked about earlier on. The journey of the elder is to say, what do I want my contribution now to look like? And there again, I said it earlier, there are so many opportunities to contribute. I'm involved in some nonprofits, that I'm providing my skills to, but they're all over the place. There's so many I can't possibly be involved in them all, but that leaves it up to other people. So yes, you have to find it for yourself. No one's going to give it to you, especially as you get older.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Interesting. Yeah. So I guess part of it is even knowing that you can, knowing that there's more, knowing that just because you're at a certain age or because you've retired and you no longer have that title, that there's still more. There's more all the time. And I don't, do you feel like everybody recognizes that, or is that something people need to be made aware of?
Well, yes, they do need to be made aware of. I understand that. Now, some people are gung ho. They really know what they want this next period of their lives to be. Many people need to be reminded that life isn't over. And I say say a person is, say, 65 years of age. Um, and I said, well, just say you only live to 75, which is young these days, right? You only live to say that's 10 years. And like you talked about your grandfather, are you going to sit in a rocking chair for 10 years? Is that what you want your life to be? Don't you want don't you want to feel engaged? Don't you want to feel that life is meaningful and fulfilling? Yes, okay. What have you said to yourselves that you've always wanted to do that you've never done? One day I'm gonna. People often say, well, like you, I've always thought I'd love to write a book. I tell them in 10 years you can write a book, right? You can learn to play the piano. You can learn to do many different things. There are so many things that you can do, but I can't motivate you to do that. You got to do that for yourself. But the need is there. The need is there.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Yeah, I mean, really, especially in 2026, it's like everything is at your fingertips. If I want to fix anything in my house, I live alone in my house. I lost my husband passed away many years ago, and so he used to fix everything. Well, now YouTube fixes everything for me. I mean,
Right.
anything you want to find, you can find. You want to learn how to crochet, you can learn how to crochet. You play the piano, guitar, paint. I mean, really, whatever it is you want to do. I heard one time that what to kind of look and go, what did I love when I was 10 years old? Like what did I love to do? And
Yes.
right? And are you doing it? Because why not? Why not? You loved it then, so there's something in you that loved to paint or loved to build or whatever it is. Why not look at that and go, wow, why am I not doing that? Like you can do it at whatever
You
age, right?
you can absolutely, or at least you can move forward towards it, right? I have had the same experience that you have had twice, actually. I've been married twice, and both of my wives have passed away. Um, my first wife, when she was 57 from ovarian cancer, she was the mother of my five children. And then my second wife, 3 years ago, from Alzheimer's. You can have those setbacks in your life, and one of the best pieces of advice I got most recently is a woman who wrote about people saying to her after she'd lost her husband, "When are you going to move on?"
Mm,
And she answer I thought was magnificent. She said, "Never." She said, "I loved him. I will never move on from the love, but I can move forward."
mm,
So uh, put that over so many of life's challenges, whether it be the loss of a loved one, which many people are experiencing every day and have to deal with the grief of all of that. So, yes, we may not move on, but we can move forward. We can take those steps towards what we would love to create. And that requires courage. It requires commitment, but it is possible. So you always have to come back to, Kim. People have to ask, what's my philosophy of life? Because every morning we face a choice. Every morning, will I grow or decline? Will I expand? Will I contract? Will I progress or will I regress? These are the choices that we have, and no one can do it for us. We have to do that. But when we start to do it, we then connect to what I said a little earlier. We connect to these wonderful feelings that, oh my gosh, okay. All right, my life's okay, and I am taking action on the things that have meaning for me.
I love that. I love what you just said. That's so good. That's so good. I think sometimes it can be easy to, if you've got something in the future to look that you're looking forward to get lost in that and forget about today. And today is going to come and go with or without you. So you might as well enjoy it. You might as well live it. You might as well get the most out of today, even if you're going on a trip 3 weeks from now and that's what you're excited about. Don't miss today. Don't miss what today has for you. And so I love that. It just makes so much sense. So, yeah, what are your biggest pieces of advice for people? What can people do? Practical, whatever things wherever they're at in life right now.
Well, I'd like to connect immediately to what you just said, uh, and that is that one of the, I think, most valuable things that people can do is not mortgage today by worrying about tomorrow. And that's, I have to do that every morning. I don't say that's easy. I journal every morning, and I cannot recommend that more highly. My journal is my personal therapy. So what I say is that, I've written all of these books on personal growth and how to fulfill your purpose and how to achieve your dreams, all of that. But even so, I don't escape from what I call at night the bully thoughts, things that want to make me worry about my children or worry about my future or worry about my health. I don't escape them. They are part of living, and most people have them in some form. So my journal, which I do early in the morning with a cup of coffee or whatever, is I just document my thoughts and my feelings, and by getting them out of my head and onto paper, I release them. So that allows that release and prepares me to align my thoughts towards what I want to achieve today or what I want to experience, right? But the other thing I have to do very, very clearly is that I have to bring myself into the day and say, what is it about today? Where can you extract every morsel of joy and happiness from today that you possibly can? And that's not saying don't plan for tomorrow or don't have things to look forward to, but today is where you live your life. This is your life right at this moment. It's not in the future. It will be when you get to the future, but it is today. So what is it? How can I connect with a loved one? How can I connect with a friend? What can I do for myself that will sustain my health? All of those things, but it's about today. There's some of the biggest pieces of advice I can give. But then again, I'm an older dude, and so they're more they're more relevant to me today. But I think everyone can practice it. I have my oldest daughter, who's now 52. I have the great joy of she calls me every morning on the way to work. She's an executive at an airline, and but she calls me and we check in, and she shares with me some of the challenges that she's having, and I share with her. But the joy of that connection is absolutely beautiful, and I do not fail to tell her how appreciative I am that she wants to know how her dad is doing every day. It's a great thing.
Yeah, I love that. My kids need to start doing that. I got to tell them that they need to start doing that. But yeah, I mean, I think it can be easy to take people for granted sometimes, right? And
Oh,
just make assumptions. Everything must be fine if they're not calling. And it's like, no, connect as much as you can, connect and be with people. What about people? Have you ever seen people who have sort of gotten into this rut of life that it's just too comfortable to be home?
yeah, and there's an old saying that the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth,
Oh,
right?
I love that. It's so good.
um, so yes, it, again, it comes back to, is my life just about existing? Do if I'm not doing, I'm just existing. I'm not experiencing life. I've circled the wagons and I'm waiting for it to end. Now, if that's the way you want to live your life, okay. All right. I can't do anything about that. That because I can't make you get out of that chair, right? You have to do that. So if that's the way you want to live it, okay. There's a book out there called "Let Them," I think at the moment, which is a
Yeah,
very
yeah, Mel Robbins.
powerful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a
yeah.
very powerful book, and that's what I think the core message is just that let people be what they want to be. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't encourage, we don't help. That's what my life is about, helping and encouraging other people. But I can only do what I can do, but it's them that has to take the first step. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wow, this has been so good. You're amazing. I've so enjoyed our conversation. Uh, anything that we haven't covered that you wish you would have had a chance to talk about today?
Well, I do feel, Kim, first of all, I want to reinforce the contribution that you are making through this show, right? I've taken a look at some of your other guests, and you've had some really powerful guests on the show, and I hope that continues to be that way. So I think what's important is that, we can only sow the seeds. We can only put it out there. We sow the seeds, and what we know is that some of the seeds will hit fertile ground and will sprout and grow and blossom, and other seeds will fall on the barren ground and won't take root. But our job is to sow the seeds, and I think that for your listeners is to say, okay, who can I encourage today? Because what I believe, especially as older people, that our primary role is to encourage the dreams of the young.
Mm.
That is one of our primary roles, is to encourage the dreams of the young. And I think this very much connects to what you want to do with your colleagues, right? That's it, putting the elders and the young people together, because the elders can inspire and give that support and encouragement and hope that young people so much need and want.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I don't always take notes when I've talked to somebody, but I have been taking notes today, and uh, you've been wonderful. This has been a joy. Thank you so much for
Oh,
how can people reach out to you? Where can they get your books?
yes. Well, first of all my books are on Amazon. right? My latest book, again, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished. For younger people, I think my books, Even Eagles Need a Push, which is a mega seller. That is a great book for the younger generation, and there's others in between. But my website is simply davidmcnally.com. davidmcnally.com. Write me info@davidmcnally.com. And yeah, and whatever I can do to help, and I'd love to do it.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very generous. And I would say this to people, buy David's book, buy David's books, buy the book for young people, for somebody that you know that could use that. David is a fantastic writer. You'll enjoy his writing, uh, much more so. You will get so much from his wisdom. So buy the book, send it. It's easy. Amazon makes it so easy. You just enter their address. You don't have to go to the post office, and send the book. Beautiful gift to give to somebody, and then get for yourself and get for somebody else. But I encourage you to do that, to support David, and because he's worth supporting. I mean, you just heard him for an hour. I mean, he's absolutely amazing. And so, David, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you.
My pleasure, Kim. It's been delightful. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And for everybody out there, if you know somebody that could listen to this and get something out of it, like it would be really good for somebody that you know, please pass it on. And so somebody else can listen to David's wisdom. And so pass it on to whoever you want to pass it on to. And I just want to say that until we see each other again, that I pray that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud.